Hi, Apartment Therapy. Thanks for coming over. Welcome to my home here in Bay Ridge. It's about 900 square feet, and let's do a tour. We've lived here for 2.5 years. I'm a professional interior designer. I primarily work on restaurants, but working in this as a residential space has been a really great way to explore my style, different avenues of decor, experiment with color, and just really become a testing ground. Everything in this room has a story behind it. These came from my childhood home. My mom always had these candles out on our coffee table. This I had a roommate find on the street. This couch was also in my childhood home, and I really loved the yellow. The typewriter my grandmother got me when I was in high school because I was really obsessed with typewriters. I was such a little hipster in high school. And it came with a tag on it that said may have belonged to Ernest Hemingway. And then we have all of Joe's grandfather's books, the Harvard Classics. Thought, I really want the walls to be covered with flowers. I want to cover the world in flowers if possible. So I just started drawing with a pencil what I might do, and then it just kind of grew around the whole room. So I made these lampshades out of Rebecca Atwood fabric, which I never could have afforded on my own. It's about $140 a yard, but a client had asked me to make pillows out of it, and I was able to use the scraps to put these together. So I really do love using contrast in spaces. Again, the gridded structure of the rug with the floral walls. I love pattern matching, but sometimes things like floral on florals are really hard to make work. So something a little bit more simple like this grid felt like it would go with the walls. And the brown was somewhat more neutral that I knew could kind of work in any space should we ever move or change furniture. And this blue, I wanted to match the blue flowers in the walls. The blue ones are somehow my favorite ones. I don't know why. So I wanted to sort of bring that out into this piece. This is both our entryway and our dining room. I wanted one of the first things people saw to be the books along the wall, so they knew exactly what kind of people they were getting into. You just don't get coved ceilings like this anymore. So I did the stripes because I really wanted to accentuate and honor those curves. I painted this jute rug with the checkers back when checkers were really trendy, but I think they still fit the space. I reupholstered these chairs with some fabric I found on Etsy because our cat had completely scratched up the originals. So this is our dining table, but also tends to be a bit of a drop zone. We drop the mail here when we come in, which is a good reminder to go through it and put it away. It's also a great place to play D&D when we have friends over. It was in my childhood home in our basement, so there's still a lot of glitter sort of embedded into the surface.
This is my office. I work in this room and, have a lot of art and stuff, old protest signs and things like that. Really wanted a piece like this for a long time. Before I knew Sydney, I saw her work on Instagram and reached out to her and was like, would you do like a, 50-foot banner of hand-stitched flowers? And Sydney was like, it would take 40 years, it would cost millions of dollars. About a year after we started dating, she gave this to me for my birthday, and it's really gorgeous. I think me and Sydney are similar in that we love a lot of things and want to show them off.
Hi, so this door connects my office, dressing room, maker space to the dining room in the other room. I find having an ironing board on the door pretty easy to save space, so I don't always have to pull something out of a closet and then unfold it. And I store lots of extra fabrics and wallpapers here in my basket. Here's where I keep tiles. I keep a lot of paints in here. I reupholstered this chair out of Alice Sargent fabric. Again, another fabric from a client that I probably couldn't have afforded myself, but had a lot of scraps. This ottoman was also my childhood home. It came with a chair which somehow got lost in the shuffle in my parents' move. So I ended up with the ottoman and upholstered it with, again, some scrap fabrics and made a matching pillow to kind of draw it up here. And it's become the spot where Nala or our dog Percy will hang out while I work. So when we moved in, these were all accordion doors with the slats that kept falling apart. They fell off the tracks, the wood was splintered, so we ended up just taking those out, and I put up these IKEA curtains to kind of hide the mess, and it makes a better zoom background when I'm sitting here at my desk. I'm a bit of a clothes hoarder. Everything's thrifted, so that's kind of my excuse. I don't know about you, but I also have a bunch of extra lampshades and lamps in my closet, just in case. Yeah, so this sideways door is very useful for storage. I keep a lot of upholstery foam, extra pillow inserts, fabric in there. One day, soon hopefully, I'd really love to paint a landscape in the frames here. Yeah, so this is the bedroom. I really wanted to do blue color drenching because it just felt so cozy and warm and bright, especially since we get so much sunlight from these south-facing windows. It felt like the right room to color drench. I ended up draping fabric over this headboard. The headboard was once used, I think, in some episode of Martha Stewart for the upholstery shop where I used to work, and they didn't know where to store it or what to do with it in the end. I got to cover it with this fabric I got at a local fabric store, and I loved this fabric so much that a few months ago I went back with the hope that maybe they still had it there, and I found it like underneath a bunch of fabric, so I was able to buy the rest of it, and that's how I ended up making this matching bolster pillow and the skirt around the bed. Joe's grandmother gave me a bunch of her quilting scraps, so I was able to use that to make these lampshades. I bought the frames online and then sewed them on. Gallery walls have kind of been the only way for Joe and I to fit all of our art into the space, so this was, while I loved the way it looks, was also out of necessity because it was the only way to fit everything there. We actually never watch TV. This has become more ornamental because I was so proud of myself for finding this frame on the street, which happened to fit so perfectly around the TV. Here's all my notebooks. I actually went to 4 high schools, so there's one per high school. This bookshelf was in my dad's bedroom since he was 9 years old. When you live in a small apartment in New York, I think I spent most of my time in bed. I would work in bed, hang out in bed, otherwise you end up, you know, if you need alone time and you don't want to be in the living room with 12 other roommates. Whereas now, our bedroom really is just for sleep. So this space really got to be just cozy, inviting place to sort of unwind. Well, I think this was the hardest room to design because it's so narrow. We've toyed with adding more counter space here, but I just love having a place to drink coffee and look out the window since we get so much natural light. We do love to collect mugs, so it felt good to have a way to put those out in the open. I covered the countertops with a peel and stick. And then here is where we hide the trash behind this curtain. I had to cut this, I sort of took a bowl and then traced it and then used my jigsaw to round the corner so we would stop hitting our hip as we walked in. People always ask if I'm gonna put peel and stick tile along the backsplash, but I feel like we have to keep it because we love that it was Megan's mom's kitchen at one point. It's a very Irish neighborhood, I think, hence not the 4-leaf clover, but the clover. And Joe's Irish, it just feels like it fits. The connecting spine for the entire apartment is through this hallway. I decided to create faux wainscoting of sorts. And painting this hallway took maybe 3-4 months, just on the weekends. I would go sort of like one frame at a time. And then, again, can never have enough gallery art space because there's too much for this apartment to put it all like spread out evenly.
I've never lived in a place where it feels like every room has its own sort of character, and I've just sort of been introduced to these different characters in all these different rooms, which is really fun.
In the neurodivergent community, about masking in public, I think we all put on a mask in some way. To me, home is where you take the mask off. I feel like the minute I get here, I put on a pair of sweatpants and I sit on the couch and I have coffee, and I don't have to be anything other than me and a person with my dog and my fiance, and yeah.